We've talked before about specific red state problems, failing healthcare systems, persistent poverty, dismal educational outcomes, but I kind of want to put it together today. I want to break down in clear categories why red states are failing across the board, why blue states outperform them in almost every measurable way, and why this red state fantasy of seceding into our own country, it's not just impractical, it's economically impossible. Now, we've talked before about some of the most obvious issues in red states: broken healthcare systems, higher poverty rates, underfunded schools, failing infrastructure, obsession with culture wars, and an exodus of skilled and educated workers. Let's take a more holistic look at why red states consistently underperform. First of all, economic output. GDP per capita, blue states dominate. Poverty is higher in red states. Educational attainment is lower. Wages are lower. Federal subsidies. Ironically, many red states survive on federal dollars generated by blue state taxpayers. If you're in Mississippi or Kentucky or West Virginia, you would implode without the cash infusion subsidized by the blue states. It's affirmative action of a sort. It's not self-reliance. By their definition, it's freeloading. Number two, health outcomes. Maternal mortality and preventable disease. Red states are worse off. Medicaid expansion. Many red states refused to do the Medicaid expansion as part of Obamacare. It left millions of red staters uninsured. Culture over care, fighting mask mandates at hospitals, refusing basic public health measures. It's not freedom. It's a way to keep diabetes rates high and health outcomes grim. Education. The red states systematically underfund public education. What do you get? Well, they fall near the bottom in terms of rankings, in terms of college attainment, in terms of test scores, in terms of all of it. Book bans rather than real investment. They could strengthen schools, but instead they're busy banning books, gutting diversity programs. And in blue states, you've got investment in teachers, in infrastructure, the whole nine yards. Labor rights and wages, right to work laws in red states, anti-union policies in red states. These don't help people. It's not a coincidence that when you have a state that's hostile to organized labor, you have more poverty and lower wages. That's the whole point of organized labor, to get people out of poverty and to raise wages. And this also connects to the brain drain. Skilled workers who want fair pay and decent protections move to states that value organized labor. Infrastructure. Red state infrastructure often has a 1950s feel. Chronic underfunding of roads and bridges leads to crumbling systems. You'll sometimes have catastrophic failures like what happened in Texas with the power grid collapse a couple times now. And this also, if we zoom out, the economic diversity of blue states is important to consider. Economies that are based on many industries are more resilient. In blue states, you have many states where it's tech and finance and entertainment and manufacturing and biomedical. It's all of these things. In a lot of red states, you have one industry, oil. Okay, that's it. So now you are tied to oil inextricably. Agriculture, that's it. Your entire state depends on agriculture. That's a recipe for disaster when market conditions shift. So this is not some kind of bullying of red states by blue states or by the federal government that has led to this. The policy choices of red states led to this. Ideological distractions in red states, instead of tackling real issues like poverty and healthcare, they ban books and target drag shows and whatever else. Federal dependency. They say we're against big government, but they couldn't survive without the subsidies from us in the blue states. So that gets us to the secession. What happens if red states decide we've had enough, we're going to form our own country? The answer is economic collapse. No more federal subsidies means no money for roads, schools, healthcare. Skilled workers are going to keep leaving. The budget implosion will be irreparable if the blue states aren't subsidizing the red states. I'm not saying things are perfect in blue states, far from it. But if you look at the averages, if you look at the data, the red state policies are predictably keeping people poorer, sicker, and less educated in these red states. And of course, those failed policies affect everybody because we in the blue states now have to subsidize them. Finally, I know a lot of people will listen to this and they'll say, but David, you know what the red states have? Cost of living is way lower. And you're right, it is. When wages are lower and there is no competition for housing and infrastructure is so disastrous, of course it's cheaper to live there because fewer people are trying to. And so this is not a glitch in the data. This is the reality. And I don't understand, and maybe it's because there isn't anything, I don't understand how anyone could be convinced that what Trump is offering is going to help these red states. I don't see how it will, and I don't predict that it could. Let me know what you think. Well, I wrote a book after a long journey and a ton of work. I am really thrilled with how it turned out, and I hope you'll read it. The book is called The Echo Machine. And in a nutshell, it looks at how American politics got so broken, who has already figured out solutions, and how we can try to fix it and stop the terror of Trump for the next 4 years. With Trump winning this election, The Echo Machine couldn't be more relevant, not only a warning about how we got here, but also about what might be coming and how to prevent the worst outcomes. We've got to stay engaged. We need a plan, and that's what the book is about. There's a belief out there that unless you have corporate media behind you, you can't have a successful political book launch, that it's not possible. I think we can prove that wrong. Order The Echo Machine today at davidpakman.com/echo on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Audible, Kindle, anywhere that books, ebooks, and audiobooks are sold. You can also call any local bookstore and say, please order me The Echo Machine by David Pakman. Wherever you get the book, you'll get the free pre-order perks, including the signed book plate. Head to davidpakman.com/free book stuff after ordering.